Where shall we go today? Where shall we go? Where do you want to go today? Let's go to Lichfield. Lichfield is a cathedral city and civil parish in Staffordshire, England. At the time of the 2011 census, the population was estimated at 32,219, and the district itself was just over 100,000 people. Its three-spired medieval cathedral was built between 1195 and 1249. Lichfield Cathedral is the only medieval cathedral in Europe with three spires. The present building was started in 1195 and completed by building the Lady Chapel in the 1330s. It replaced a Norman building begun in 1085, which replaced one or possibly two Saxon buildings from the 7th century. Cathedral Close surrounding the cathedral, the close contains many buildings of architectural interest. There is also the Hospital of St John Baptist without the bars, a distinctive Tudor building with a row of 8 brick chimneys. This was built outside the city walls to provide accommodation for travellers arriving after the city gates were closed. It now provides home for elderly people and has an adjacent chapel. And Lichfield was the birthplace of Samuel Johnson, the writer of the first English language dictionary. The development of the city was consolidated in the 12th century. Lichfield's heyday was in the 18th century when it developed into a thriving coaching city. Policies of Henry VIII had a dramatic effect on Lichfield. The Reformation brought the disappearance of pilgrim traffic following the destruction of St Chad's Shrine in 1538. 3 people were burned at the stake for heresy under Mary I. In the English Civil War, Lichfield was divided. The cathedral authorities, supported by some of the townsfolk, were for the king, but the townsfolk generally sided with Parliament. Lichfield started to develop a lively coaching trade as a stop-off on a busy route between London and Chester from the 1650s, making it Staffordshire's most prosperous town. The railways arrived in 1837, signalling the end of Lichfield's position as an important staging post for coaching traffic. While nearby Birmingham expanded greatly during the Industrial Revolution, Lichfield remained largely unchanged in character. In the centre of the city, the market square contains 2 statues, one of Samuel Johnson overlooking the house in which he was born, and one of his great friend and biographer, James Boswell. So well and good, isn't it? True history and all that. But before I find out about the true history, I just walk around and make it up. So here we go, in Lichfield. This here is where you get your water from in Lichfield. Sadly, because of the water shortage, they haven't got any. So you're screwed. Duke of York pub. You're not really allowed to say them words anymore, are you? Well, certainly not with Grand Old. Oh, they've got a heritage trail. We like heritage trails. This is number 11 though, so we haven't started at the beginning. And it's telling us that a big house once stood here, and that's it. Beautiful. Anyway, they knocked it down so they could have a car park. What the hell? That's one way to avoid congestion, isn't it? If you like rickety buildings, well, good start, Lichfield. There's a few on the other side as well that look a bit ropey. This could be interesting. Right, these are a tip. I always give tips, but you know, if you want to get a good name for your shop and that kind of thing. How's about this one? Get a sign that can actually flap over your window. Basic stuff. Names I can relate to: Little Makeup Shop. I always think you should have a little makeup on, not a lot, otherwise you look like a clone of everyone else who's female, who wears loads of makeup. But this is my favourite. Duke's Funeral Service. Now, jukeboxes are really good. Can you imagine being buried in a jukebox? That'd be amazing. Now, you know me, I don't like vaping, I don't like vape shops. I think people who work in vape shops at some time will probably be sued by people who've got massive lung problems in the future. But, fair play. The ace of vapes. Fantastic name. Some black and white architecture. Probably Jacobean. But sadly, it's a Boots. At least it's not derelict, I suppose. You won't believe this, but people often criticise me for saying that these buildings are brand new builds and all that kind of stuff. Well, I can prove it here because look, they've even left the concrete bare. They haven't covered it with wood like they do in other places. So there you go, brand new build, probably about 10 years old. Guildhall. That's where they used to make stainless steel. Not many people know that. They've got a map as well, which is very handy. I am here, apparently. Well, there as you look at it. It's quite a thick glass. Got another new build here. Handily, it's a pub, but it's closed at the moment, but it says it opens at 15:10, so that's 10 past 3 in the afternoon. I've seen some odd places for some shops in my time, but this is a pretty, well, not shoppy street, yet they've chosen to put Wilco's here. Like, what? Not many people know that Lichfield is a holiday resort, and there we go, to the beach. So we'll have a look and see what's going on there. Wonder if we can get an ice cream or some fish and chips. Where I'm stood now has been many things over many years. At one point, it was a Roman amphitheatre. You can tell that because there's the entrance of the amphitheatre, and that's where they used to do stuff with amphibians and things like that. It's also, as well, apparently, you can't tell, it's been a fish and chip shop, because it's been a friary, and apparently they've marked out where the fish and chip shop used to be. It was massive, to be fair, because if I stand at one corner and then just flip it back, look at that. That's a huge fish. It's like it should be more of a restaurant rather than just a normal friary. I particularly like this wall here. It's from the college where they have the kids basically have a little square and they have to brick it up the best way they can. And you see, some of them are actually really good, and some of them are well, a bit PP, if I'm honest with you. But I dare say they didn't get through, didn't get the qualifications. Every day is a school day. I did not know at all that Vikings invented e-cigs, so they're the guys we're going to have to sue when people start dying from lung disease. I've always known that meerkats are into different things, like, you know, burying, looking at things, insurance, but I never knew they were into gambling. But there you go. Lichfield is famous for being the first place on the planet that invented thinking, and he's the first guy ever to do it, Benjamin Johnson. Within gobbing distance of Benjamin Johnson and his thinking, we've got another statue which is the other side of the length of the church, and this one here is Mr. Boswell, who was famous for the TV show The Liverbirds back in the day. He come from Lichfield, not Liverpool. Who knew? Being in Lichfield, the accent's quite difficult to understand. Some kids have just shouted something at me and I'm not exactly sure what it was, but I'm sure it wasn't very friendly. I'll get them. Because Lichfield is a city, everything is doubled in size. So you've got a double telephone box there, and over there you've got a double letterbox, post box. Although we're not far, actually, although we're miles away from Wales, the Welsh have still got an influence here as well. Look at these tiny cottages for the little Welshies to live in. I think they were house guests or something, but did things for people who were rich. But at least that's somewhere to live. I would, but I think I'd have to let it land first. Good news is we must be getting near the beach because this is Causeway House. The bad news is, when they built this, they obviously couldn't measure the gap because you got two nice pointy bits and then they've kind of cobbled a bit together to fit in. And it's not even the same. It's shocking, shocking. I'm very, very disappointed. Good news is we found the sea, so we're just looking for the beach now. Although this house is black and white and therefore was built before colour was invented, they actually invented colour whilst this house was being built. So it's got a little bit of colour on it, but that's because colour was so expensive at the time, which is why most of it's just black and white. This is Saint Chav, the patron saint of chavs. It's obligatory as well that no matter what you do, whenever you drive in a car, you have to wear a funeral cortege. I don't know what that means. I really do like impressive structures for fairy tales, and this one is incredibly splendid. It's got something I'm going to show you in a bit that even I'm surprised at. Plasticine was invented here in Lichfield in 1012 AD, and this is the first ever model that was made from the plasticine at the time. Sadly, over the years it's gone hard, but now it's started to rot because of the rain, so they've had to put a little hat on it so it doesn't melt. But it's still very good for a really old plasticine model. Told you it was a holiday resort. Look, I found the beach. Get in! The front of this church has statues on it, many statues, and basically it's a selection process. It's a bit like the X Factor, where there's so many people that you can choose to be a saint, and they're all put up there and then people vote for them, and the further up you get, the better you are, so you get like to the final. We've already seen the winner though. That was Saint Chav around the corner. Voting generally takes place at night, hence they've got these spotlights to light up the contestants, but obviously they don't do it now because we've already got a winner. But it is a fabulous way of doing it. So much better than the X Factor anyway. I have to admit, never this even existed. It is stunning. It is amazing. Shame I can't go in it. I'm a bit late, but what a hell of a cathedral. Bit serious then, sorry. Because these houses are so close to the beach, which is only there, they've all got steps so that they don't get flooded out when the tide comes in, which I think is very sensible. If you like bricked up windows, window tax, you can do a lot worse than come to Lichfield. Same if you like fancy brickwork. Look at that for fancy brickwork. It's like fancy and brickwork. I've always wanted a library and a museum, but I couldn't afford one. This one's free. I'll see if I can take it home. If you like statues, come to Lichfield. There's thousands of them, including that hidden one there. He's one who actually applied to be the saint on the cathedral, but he was too late, so they just stuck him on here instead. Wouldn't mind, but he's in behind bushes. It's very sad. As you can see with the shells in his hands, this guy founded BP. He also was the first person ever to have grey eyelashes. Another statue, this one is of Prince Albert in his growing a beard, so he looks like that guy who's a comedian who does other stuff as well. What's he called? Paul Merton. They don't just do statues of humans here in Lichfield, they also do animals as well, and as we can see there, there is a bear, and then in the middle there's a couple of ducks because it's water, and then on the top there's a child having a wee. It's beautiful. So someone's took the frustration out on the flag, so it is helping with mental health. It gives you something to concentrate your anger on. If you've ever been to Chicago, you'll know Central Park there. It's a very big grassed area in the middle of the city. Well, this is where they got the idea from. This is Litchfield's Central Park, but to be fair, it's not in the centre of the town, so it doesn't really work. If you like things that are just stuck in the middle of nowhere for no reason whatsoever, you can do worse than come to Lichfield, because there's that hiding behind some bushes. I'm going to investigate, just for you. Wow, it's the actual blueprint for the cathedral. I've even got it's sort of an early version of it. All the people are lying down instead of being actually stood up. But you can see where the idea came from. And they've even got the bears on there as well from the fountain that we saw before. If you like playing with your balls, you can do a lot worse than come to Lichfield, because they have an area that's specifically for men and women to play with people's balls. This is an actual statue, not the actual person, of the captain of the Titanic, which sank after hitting an iceberg. So he is credited with showing, no matter how you engineer something, nature's still going to win, tragically. Lichfield City is a very, very exciting place. I've never known anywhere quite as exciting as this. If you get carried away though and sadly have a heart attack, not to worry, they've got a defibrillator, one of those things that will save your life, but you can't get to it because it's behind a fence. It's making me panic a little bit, getting a pain. What? Another legacy of Welsh slavery. Tiny door there so that the Welshes could go into their combined house and actually have the tea and stuff after they've been serving all the people in the big posh houses. Cathedral rise. I think it's fair to say it has already risen. That looks like a cricket pitch in a moat. I always thought they skipped and jumped, but anyway, let's go down here. I'm not a bishop, so I'm skipping, so people don't confuse me for being a bishop. I'm knackered now though. Art plays a major part in Lichfield's stuff, so even Banks's bin. Nice cherries. Just a quick reminder, in case you forgot, this is a city. Yeah, like no city I've ever seen. Through them trees, which you can't see, is lots more open space and grass and stuff. Lichfield has invented many things, including the dual carriageway. Here's an early version for pedestrians. Lichfield also invented being an asshole to the locals by banning horses, carts and cattle to go down to the market down this road. Swines. Although, obviously they're okay. I mentioned before that I love gargoyles, and the gargoyles here are quite spectacular. They're also not gobbing out water, which is what most gargoyles do. They just seem to be decorative, which is counterintuitive because they're not exactly the nicest things in the world, but they remind me of me, so I like them. Looks like these ones around here that have made it to the back of the semi-finalists of the competition to become a saint. Sadly, never quite made it. In fair, it doesn't look too disappointed. I'd be devastated. He's just holding his, well, I don't know what that is, a shaft thing, a disappointment. But this guy here, I'll tell you what, he's cross that he got knocked out in the first round. I'm really chuffed that this has the latest technology. It's got a sundial. Sadly though, it's in the shade at the moment. Oh. More gargoyles, which kind of go, well, Yeah, they do carry on. I didn't think they carried on then. They do carry on. And then you've got these little private chapels that you can hire to just sit in and watch the world go by. They work out at £85 a day, which seems reasonable, to be fair, because you get a good view all the way down the street past the winner. So this is the elimination section. So that was one of the semi-finalists. These are the ones that got eliminated. There's the other semi-finalists. There's always three in a semi-final, and obviously the winner gets the big place looking down the road. So it's time to say goodbye to the sea. It's nice to see people taking an interest in the local architecture and taking a picture of it. This rather fabulous old build HSBC bank. Like many towns and cities and places like that, Lichfield has had the Victorians round, as you can tell with this rather splendid stone built, well, brick walkway. Beautiful. The spires, don't know what it's named after. You simply can't escape the references to the sea, but you always get that in seaside towns. Sea salt, I mean, yeah. Time Warp, they've got a Bon Marsh. Thank God it's closed. Lichfield has also got a Peacocks as well. Thankfully, it is closed at the moment. But they also give a nod to their heritage. So here's the Romans with traditional Roman clothing there in the window. Yes, they've got a sex shop. Whew. It's me sorted. Oh no, it's closed. Remember before when I said they speak a bit different around here? It's difficult to understand. They write different as well. Although you can't see it, it says, "We are recruiting." It's got a fairly modern car parking system as well. But it's fairly cheap. Car park has even got a moat going around it for safety, so your car is super secure. I do like people who have their names as the thing that they do for a living, the job they choose, the business they open. For example, Mr. Tyre, and he's opened a tyre place. Brilliant. They've got a railway station too, which is called Lichfield City, but it's not in the city centre. Nothing is. There isn't one. They have two railway stations. They also have Lichfield United Station, but that's at the other side of the city, not in the centre. When this bridge was built, it was at the time when coloured paint was really expensive, so all they've coloured in is these little bits here, and the important bit, which is a bit like Wigan, i.e. stop driving into this, will you, mofos. Although, to be fair, that bridge looks lower than this bridge, so if you clear that one, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to clear that one. The law. If you like your fairy tale buildings to be small, because the other ones are too big, then come here, St John's, because it's tiny, 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 tiny. And all these chimneys here is where they do jacket potatoes, so you can have a jacket potato after you've listened to the fairy tales. Fabulous, darling. Where Lichfield leads, the rest of us follow, and that is possibly the future of Wigan Town Centre. Fantastic. Tell you what, St Chav would be furious. Look at St John's house. He didn't even get into the quarterfinals. Named after the famous cigarette silk cut. Here's a place, if you're not as stylish as I am, you might need. But I'm fine, thank you. You can learn from me. There's a castle here as well in Lichfield. Not many people know that. But here are the turrets. And you can see all the arrow balls where they used to shoot the arrows out of, which was quite effective because it was never invaded, Lichfield, to be fair. Trains are not your thing. You can always use the bus station. Although, I think the buses might be on strike. They are in Wigan anyway. So if you want to come somewhere that's got a massive church, the first ever X Factor competition,
competition to be a saint. In fact, I think it's the only one. Don't think they did another one. And old architecture, modern architecture, and the future for many towns to either follow or have already followed. You can do a lot worse. They come to the green areas and the built-up areas of Litchfield City. Yeah, I can't get over the fact it's a city either. Till next time, bye!
Where shall we go today? Where shall we go? Where do you want to go today? Let's go to...
Within gobbing distance. Being in Lichfield, they have some slightly difficult to understand Plasterfield. Now, if you're into sports like I am, obviously, then you'll recognise the noise that you can hear in the background, which will start in a minute. It will start. If you're into sport like I am, you'll recognise the noise in the background. Here we go. He's back to bowl. That's right, it's cricket. They're doing well here. I think they've got a 6. So, yeah. If you like your fairy tale building,